Hi there, this is John Linneball from John Linneball Tutoring, and I am here to present you with a video on tone words for the SAT and ACT for the passage reading sections and essays. Has anyone ever told you I don't like your tone? We all know that we could say the exact same words to make them a compliment or an insult. It also can make online communication a challenge since we can't hear someone's voice in an email. Wow, that's a nice outfit can mean two very different things. If I say, wow, that's a nice outfit, I'm saying you look nice. If I say, wow, that's a nice outfit, I'm perhaps not being very complimentary and perhaps I'm insulting you. So, good writers know how to use descriptive adjectives and adverbs to add a tone to writing where you obviously can't hear the person, it's just words on a page. So, tone reading questions, they may ask something like, the passage is marked by a tone of, and you have to choose between four different choices. The author's attitude towards the subject is it flippant? Is it serious? Something like that. The main character can be described as serious, silly, hardworking, lazy, something like that. All those things would definitely let you know what's going on. Read the adjectives. The person was wise, he was foolish, something like that. The relationship between the husband and wife can be described as. These are all things you can find at pages 126 through 128 in the Barron's new SAT book, which is the 28th edition of the Barron's SAT book. So here are some bad words. These are usually negative in connotation, which is the tone of the word, and often negative denotation, the dictionary definition of the word. So condescending, that's talking to someone in an insulting, patronizing manner, treating someone as though he or she is stupid. So you can think descending. A descending staircase is one that's going down. Being condescending, you can think it's talking down to someone, or con also means with, so con could mean with down, so basically it's talking down to someone. Patronizing basically means the same things. When you're talking to someone like they're a little kid, there. Patronage is being a business's customer, which reminds me of a joke from the old Cheers TV series where Frasier Crane explained to Sam Malone that he shouldn't say thank you for being patronizing, he should say thank you for his patronage. And then he said, there, you got it. And Sam said, you're being patronizing there, right? And he said, yes, now you've got it. So, here's a little meme that I created using the patronizing, condescending Wonka. It figures you wouldn't know what condescending means. See, I was being condescending, just like condescending Willy Wonka here. So here are some more bad words. Skeptical means you're not believing, you're questioning. Skeptical is kind of like saying, I don't know if I believe you. I need to hear a little bit more evidence before I decide if I believe you or not. A more extreme version of skeptical is the next word, which is cynical, which is when you just really do not trust other people. You're always questioning others' motives. It's extreme skepticism, and it can also be making fun of people's apparently innocent or altruistic, in quotes, good motives. The old joke goes, give a cynic an inch and he'll measure it. So if I say, Joe's bar cares about you and doesn't want you to drink and drive, and that's why if we think you've had too much, we'll cut you off. A cynic might say, oh, Joe's bar just doesn't want to get sued. They don't care about you. Something like that. Aloof. Here's another word. It's detached. It's remote. Think of a cat who isn't interested in being fed or petted. It's just looking at you from across the room like, oh, you're here. And then it goes back to licking its fur. Defensive. It's self-justifying, rationalizing. Why do you keep asking me what defensive means? See, I was being defensive there. All right. Even more bad words. Grudging, reluctant, barely willing. So if someone has a grudging respect for someone, it means I respect you even though I don't like you. Hypocritical, pretending to have virtues one lacks, saying one thing while you're doing another. If I say something like, I think people who record YouTube videos are very stupid and frivolous people who shouldn't be bothered with while I'm recording this YouTube video, I'm being hypocritical. Trite Trite means cliched, worn out from overuse. You can think of most phrases used in business letters, like, enclosed, please find, your services are no longer needed, please remit the sum of, as soon as possible, blah, blah, blah. I remember reading the 1970 edition of the World Book Encyclopedia and seeing their list of, in quotes, trite and stilted phrases to avoid. They're basically all the phrases that are still used in every business letter you will ever receive. Trite office humor, by that same token, is something like, hey, Phil, are you working hard or hardly working? See, that's really trite and cliched. Indifferent means you don't really care about something, kind of mediocre. Something could be good, bad, or indifferent. That can be bad if you're indifferent to something you should care about. If I'm indifferent to the suffering of another human being, I'm not a very nice person. Naive, unsophisticated, innocent, ignorant. Oh, you are so naive. I used to think like you, and then I grew up. Disingenuous. Well, that's misleading, insincere. When you're not acting in good faith, you're playing dumb. Oh, I didn't know you wanted the last piece of pizza or that cake with your name on it. Golly gee, that would be very disingenuous of me if I said that. So here's some bad and bad-ish words. Pessimism, that's negativity. We've all heard the pessimist thinks the glass is half empty, and the optimist thinks the glass is half full. Well, pessimists are actually happy because 90% of the time they're right, and 10% of the time they're pleasantly surprised. And as I just said, the opposite of optimism... I messed that up. The opposite of pessimism is optimism, which is the glass is half full. And then the chem geek joke is, no, the glass is always full. It's just half of it is water and half of it is air. So resigned would mean that you've been defeated. You're passively waiting for your fate after losing a battle or losing a fight. Or you can think of resigning from office. I can't handle this job anymore. You take it. I resign. Now here are some words conveying rudeness. Brusque is curt. We're being very short with someone in a rude way. Think of one-word answers. How do you deal with stress? Vodka. I think that was Red Heat with Arnold Schwarzenegger. You can think of the soup Nazi from the old Seinfeld TV show. No soup for you! Next! He would give very short answers and be very rude. Pompous. Pompous is self-important or self-obsessed. There was a man in the ruling class in Julius Caesar's time, or at least the time of the Roman Empire. He was very self-important and self-obsessed and arrogant, to the point that they actually named the characteristic after him. So if you are very arrogant and self-important, you are pompous. I would not want to have a bad character trait named after me, so hopefully that will not catch on. Something being named after me, not pompous. That ship has already sailed as far as pomposity is concerned. Contempt. Contempt is disrespect. I remember looking up a bad word in the dictionary when I was about 12, and the definition was highly contemptible person. So for a while, my brother and I would call each other highly contemptible person. And disdain. That would also be contempt, disrespect. My father would say, that's Brooklynese for disdain. Hey, disdain over here. Disdain won't come out. All right. Disparaging. Disparaging means criticizing or putting someone down. There was a law passed in Texas about 1997 called the Food Disparagement Law. It would make it illegal to falsely claim that a food was bad for you or tainted or something. It was widely itself disparaged in the media as, in quotes, the veggie libel law, which is funny because it was actually passed to protect the Texas beef industry, but that might have been about the time there was the E. coli spinach incident, so who knows. But disparaging is basically criticizing, putting something down, insulting it. Flippant. Flippant is showing an inappropriate lack of seriousness, making fun of somebody. Oh, yeah, da-da-da-da-da. Well, where do you think you would find oil? I don't know, in the oil place? That was a flippant response to perhaps a serious question. Writing style words. There are words that describe style or describe what's going on in a passage. Cautionary. Well, cautionary would be a warning about something bad. We all know proceed with caution, proceed with care. Caution, take cautions, precautions. So those are all basically telling you to be careful. Didactic. that's educational, especially in a moralizing or patronizing way. Hopefully you don't feel I'm being too didactic here. Pedantic is almost the same thing. It's excessively concerned with minor details. You can think of it as pertaining to the education of ped, like children, like pediatric is somebody who specializes in children's issues, like a pediatric doctor. Ironic is contrary to what's expected. Irony is not simple coincidence. It's something more along these lines. Like, think that you're causing an electrical fire by overloading your wiring with your new fire alarm system that you installed. Or think of the O. Henry story, The Gift of the Magi, where the man sold his watch so he could buy some elaborate hair combs for his wife, and his wife cut off her hair and sold it to a wig maker so she could buy a chain for the man's pocket watch that he had sold. So that's an ironic ending. Irony, or being ironic, can also be being sarcastic. So when you say the opposite of what you mean, nice move, genius. Do I really think that person's a genius? No, I'm saying I think his move was very stupid, and perhaps he is also very stupid. All right, more writing style words. Nostalgic, it's yearning for the past. This is a very old joke. Nostalgia ain't what it used to be, so it's even the act of nostalgia just isn't the way it used to be. Nostalgia used to be way better than it is today. Prosaic is something that's boring, everyday, mundane. It's the opposite of poetic, because any writing that isn't poetry is prose. We all know that poetry is high energy or condensed writing. It expresses some really lofty ideas in a very small number of words, whereas prose is kind of like what I'm saying right now. It just says things in a straightforward and relatively boring way. Whimsical is fanciful, capricious, unpredictable. So a cartoon character is a whimsical addition to something, if you draw a cartoon character on your book cover or something. Capricious, the same thing, where you've just randomly decided to do something. Unpredictable. So if I act in an arbitrary and capricious manner, I've just decided, I'm going to do whatever I want. It's whimsical. So that's when someone's fooling around. Now let's look at some good words. Judicious. Judicious means that you're showing wisdom or good judgment. Judicial refers to judges, so hopefully a judge would show good judgment in his or her affairs. Esteem is respect. If I have esteem for you, I respect you. In Spanish, that's a way that you might write a letter to someone is estimada, respected person. Estimada papa, my respected father. You've probably heard of self-esteem, which is self-respect. That's very popular, especially in pop psych books, that you should have self-esteem, and perhaps if you have problems, you have low self-esteem. Satirical, it's exposing folly to ridicule. That is satire. Satire is something that exposes folly to ridicule, so satirical would be something that pertains to satire, the exposing of folly to ridicule. Candor is truth. So you can think of candid photos. They're not posed photos, they're photos of just someone doing what they do every day. There was a really old TV show in the 1950s, I think, called Candid Camera. Then they did a remake in the early 1980s. Same thing as a prank TV show where people would walk into a setup situation and their unscripted reaction be filmed. One I remember is a man walked into the restroom, and instead of toilets being there, there were a bunch of men lying around on mattresses saying, "Oh no, this isn't the bathroom, it's the restroom, ha 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 ha." And I believe the MTV show Punk'd was basically the same idea. So, bias, lack of bias judgment. Well, bias is when you have an axe to grind. You want to take one side or the other, and you just don't want to hear the other side. So, disinterested or dispassionate means you don't have a bias. It doesn't mean that you're uninterested, which would mean that you don't care about something, but you don't have any particular investment in either side. You're just interested, so to speak, in finding out what the truth is. And dispassionate, again, you don't have any great emotions about it, but you're interested in seeing how it turns out. Objective can be judged by an indisputable standard. For example, it's really easy to find out how much an iPhone 6 weighs. You can just put it on an accurate scale and you know how much it weighs. The subjective would be based on an opinion, or you can think of it as disputed or subject to dispute. If I say the iPhone 6 is the best cell phone ever, that's my subjective opinion. Other people can say, no, it's not, it's terrible, you should get a Galaxy. Things like that. So here are some more on bias or lack of bias or judgment. There's ambivalent. Ambivalent means that you're showing mixed emotions. Ambi means both. For example, if you're ambidextrous, you could be using the right or the left hand just as effectively. So ambivalent means that you have mixed emotions. Dispassionate. If you are dispassionate, you are indifferent, but it's a nicer connotation. You would want a judge hearing your case to be dispassionate, meaning that the judge would not have any emotions about you in particular or any emotions about the other side in particular. The judge would just want to find out what the truth is and reach a fair conclusion based on the evidence in front of him or in front of her. So again, disinterested means the same thing. You don't have a vested interest to affect your decision, even if you're fascinated by the issue. But uninterested would be the judge being, oh God, not this boring case. Ugh. That is not something you would want a judge to do. And on the SAT essay, you can use all the words that I've listed and defined for you to describe the writing techniques used in the essays or excerpts that you'll have to analyze. So you could say, the writer's tone is disinterested and thoughtful, but ambivalent, which would be a nice way to write basically this, that the writer seems intelligent and doesn't have an axe to grind, but can't seem to make up his or her mind about this topic. So the first way is a nicer way of putting it when you mean, God, why can't this guy make up his mind? What the heck? If you have enjoyed this video, please like it, give it the thumbs up there, and subscribe to my channel. Please share it with anyone you want as long as you credit me, and you can do that just by leaving a slide in it. And consider hiring me for tutoring jobs. You can reach me at john.linneball.tutoring@gmail.com, or you can go to my website at www.johnlinneball.com, or you can call me at 415-986-7355. All right, hope you are having a good day.